Thank you. Really excited about this opportunity here to play against a really good William and Mary football team. They're very well coached, and I think they're enjoying an outstanding season. Defensively, I would say that they're special. I think their statistics, certainly show just how good and dominant they've been this year on defense. Offensively, I think they've got some really good balance and certainly have a few playmakers that are capable of, breaking a game open. And they're real solid in the kicking game. I think they've played real smart football this year in terms of how they put their season together and how they've kind of progressed through the season. They've made themselves hard to beat. They've won some close football games, and I think it's a football team with a lot of confidence. I certainly would like to believe that a William and Mary victory would secure a postseason playoff position for them. I'd also like to believe that even if they do not win, that they should get consideration for postseason play. I think they're certainly that caliber of a football team, and they've had that type of season. As for us, we're playing pretty good football right now, kind of defying odds in a lot of different ways, in particular offensively, where we've really been devastated by injuries this year. But our offense has been performing real well here of late the last 2 weeks. I think defensively we've been playing timely defense and relatively opportunistic in terms of making plays when we need to make them. So I'm very optimistic that we can come out here Saturday afternoon and put together our best game of the season. It may take that to win, but I'm optimistic that that's something that we're going to be able to do out there in terms of our preparation and our performance. At this time, I'll take any questions here from the media.
Coach Rocco, Michael Strauss wasn't extending plays as a passer earlier this season, but he clearly has been recently, especially at Delaware. How did that sort of develop?
Well, I think there's a lot of things that go into it. There was some discussion about it. That was one of the areas that we felt that he needed to be able to be more efficient with. We didn't run him much early. We started running him a little bit more a little later in the season. And we did start to talk a little more about extending plays. And he has a real good sense of the pressure. He understands the coverages extremely well. He understands the pocket extremely well, and he has been able to stay alive and extend some plays. Now, one of the things that we've done, John, the last couple weeks in particular, is we've moved the pocket a lot more. And not, when the coach says move the pocket, most people will think about sprinting out. We're not really sprinting out, but we're running some half bootlegs, and we're just moving the pocket so that he's not always standing directly behind the center. So the launch point changes, the protections change, and it makes it a little more difficult for the defenses to kind of outnumber you and get to your quarterback. And that's kind of when he's been extending the plays a little bit. We're bootlegging the ball outside. Someone flashes up the field. He ducks underneath the guy, steps back, and then makes the throw down the field. So we're creating a little different type of a pocket for him, and he's been really hot. And then the receivers have been doing a really good job catching the football.
Coach, what does it say about someone that has a resume and longevity like Jimmy Laycock that he has almost seemingly switched around his entire flow? They are playing defense like we've never seen him play from the last 20 years. He was always an offensive guy, and now they're playing lights-out defense. What does that say about his ability to mold to his roster?
Well, I think the biggest thing that I would say about Coach Laycock with this year's team and having some history with Coach is he's always going to find the best way for his teams to play, and then he'll play accordingly. And, he has a system and a style of offense. He has a system and style of defense. But in a given year, when one side of the ball demonstrates a certain ability to perform at a high level, he'll play to his strengths. And I think that's the one thing that's been most evidenced this year. The defense has confidence, swagger, and they're playing at a very high level. So offensively, they're complementing each other very much this season. So I think it's just his overall, knowledge of the game, knowledge of his personnel, then the ability from year to year to kind of structure himself in such a way to give them the best chance to win. And obviously this has been a very successful year for them, I think, in that context.
Coach, winners of 3 in a row right now. If you win this weekend, we 4 heading into the off season. I mean, what can that do for you guys, as you kind of build and look towards, what could be a good year next year?
Well, I think it means an awful lot. I've been saying here for a while how, I'm sure people are talking about what all William & Mary has to play for. It's kind of the obvious things. And then for us, I'm convinced, I said it last week when we went to Delaware, I think we've got an awful lot to play for. I mean, this football team has a lot on the line. And, getting to 6-6 is huge. And it's not only to validate that this football team, did fight through the adversity and did finish, what they started, but it's a tribute to the seniors. And it's a statement of validation for the guys that are coming back. Maybe that is called momentum for the future. But I think it's kind of two-pronged when you look at it from that perspective. I think the seniors want to be able to go out on the right foot and also reestablish winning. And then the underclassmen want to send the seniors out the way they deserve to go out, but yet gain some momentum for our off season as we look to our future. So, if you can internalize that, then you can be motivated by that. And I know I have internalized it, and I am motivated by it. And our kids have kind of been mirroring that here the last couple weeks. We've been playing some pretty good, pretty inspirational football, and it'll certainly take that here on Saturday.
Anybody who watched Richmond against Delaware and Stony Brook would have a tough time believing the Spiders lost 2 12-10 games.
Right, including me. Yes,
in that group?
I am in that group. Yes, sir.
What's the easiest way to explain that?
Well, yeah, without like the total cop-out, it's football. I mean, it's the game of football. It's like not shooting the ball real well on a given night in basketball. How do you explain that? How can you shoot 64% on a given night and 38 on another night? Doesn't make any sense. Well, the defense was better. Well, were they? I mean, I think, and, I think it's fair to put the biggest components of the team, in particular in defeat, on the head coach and on the quarterback. And that's kind of the way we go about our business, So, okay, when things weren't going well, let's put it on Coach Rocco. I'm willing to accept that. I said it after the Gardner-Webb game to you, if I'm not mistaken. And I also, though, have been able to witness the maturity of my quarterback. And, last year we finished 4-0. 3 of those games were at home. We went down to William & Mary and we won, but it wasn't necessarily a real clean game by our quarterback. It wasn't one of his best games. So heading into the season, the winning on the road component was something that, okay, are we really ready to do that? And evidenced here in the last 2 games, we're ready to do that. And who shined in the biggest moments? Our quarterback. So, I think there's some parallels there, and there's certainly some growth there, and that's good. So I think that's the best answer I can give in terms of how something like that happens. I also think early in the year, a couple of injuries kind of derailed our ability to perform. Whereas later in the year, we have more guys that are ready to step up and play. So the development and the growth of our football team has been very positive as different guys have stepped into different roles. So when it's all happening in real time, those things are hard to see, And, I think to some extent I sensed it. I kind of grasped what was happening, and I was hopeful that we'd be able to get to where we've gotten to, and we have. But some of our younger kids have matured and responded. Our quarterback has matured and responded at a high level. And then I've said it in here before, we've had 5 different offensive line combinations this year. And that is that's a huge thing to have to overcome. The continuity in that offensive line is critical if you're going to score points and control the ball. And we just hadn't had that until the last couple of weeks. We kind of have settled into, okay, this is what it looks like it's going to be. And so it's all kind of coming together, I guess, and hopefully we can end the season, with that thought.
Hey, you've been in a lot of rivalries from Penn State to Pittsburgh to Texas, whoever. What are a couple of the top rivalries you think you've been involved in?
Well, I've answered this question before when I was at Virginia, and I really I thought Virginia Tech was a very, very huge rivalry game and a great state for football. I was at Texas, and Texas, Oklahoma, Texas A&M were both huge rivalry games, very exciting. I was at Boston College when they extended a series with Notre Dame, Boston College, Notre Dame. And then, here to be in, the longest running, historical game in the South, that's a huge game. And I think the thing that's exciting about this one is some of the similarities between the schools, being in conference, in state. So I've been blessed and privileged in those areas to have experienced those kinds of opportunities. And, I'm certainly excited about this rivalry game here this weekend.
What changes for coaches during rivalry week? Because I imagine there are things you don't have to do, like you may not have to give the enthusiasm speech, and you may not have to tell them all that much because they should know it by now. So what is different for the coaches during this week?
There is a little bit more of a predisposition for your student athletes to be motivated to play this opponent, having had history with and having knowing players on the opponent's football team. So there's some things that are already in play. So maybe you don't have to be as creative as the coach, especially early in the week, in terms of trying to give them motivation to play and to win this game. So some of those things are kind of already built in. I think the other thing is a number of our players were either recruited by William & Mary or not recruited by William & Mary, and both of those factor in equally, however you want to use it. And some of them were deciding between Richmond and William & Mary. So there's some value in that, to have a history and an understanding of who your opponent is. So I think from that standpoint, in particular early on, I think that all plays in. But, come Thursday, Friday, Saturday, it's about one's ability to focus and execute and to perform under pressure. And it always comes down to that, whether you're in a rivalry game or a game that is somewhat unfamiliar to your players.